Hey there, movie lovers. Welcome back to Fade to Fact. Today we're diving into one of the most beloved Halloween classics of all time, Hocus Pocus, 1993. At this point, it's almost impossible to picture the spooky season without the Sanderson sisters, those bumbling yet unforgettable witches played by Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker, and Kathy Najimy. But here's the funny part. When this film was first released in the summer of 1993, not October, but July, it wasn't a box office hit at all. In fact, critics weren't too kind, and it sort of fizzled out in theaters. Yet, like a spell that takes a little time to work, Hocus Pocus slowly became a cult favorite, growing bigger every single Halloween thanks to constant TV airings and nostalgic fans who passed it on to new generations. What makes Hocus Pocus so fun to revisit isn't just the witches or the campy charm. It's the mountain of quirky behind-the-scenes stories, surprising casting choices, and production details that make you appreciate it even more. For example, did you know Leonardo DiCaprio almost starred in the movie? Or that several iconic moments were completely improvised? And let's not forget the hilarious fact that Sarah Jessica Parker has a very real connection to the history of witch trials. So grab your broomsticks, light the black flame candle, and let's uncover 20 things you never knew about Hocus Pocus. Trust me, by the end of this video, you'll see the movie in a whole new light, and maybe have even more reason to pop it on again this Halloween. 1. Leonardo DiCaprio turned down the lead. Before Omri Katz was cast as Max, Disney had its eye on a rising young star, Leonardo DiCaprio. At the time, Leo was being offered roles left and right, including several high-profile projects, but he decided to turn down Hocus Pocus in favor of What's Eating Gilbert Grape, 1993. That decision landed him his first Oscar nomination and helped solidify his reputation as a serious actor, so it's hard to argue with his instincts. Still, it's pretty wild to picture the Sanderson sisters chasing a teenage DiCaprio around Salem instead of the Max we know today. 2. Bette Midler calls it her favorite role. Bette Midler has had an incredible career, spanning music, stage, and movies, but she's admitted more than once that playing Winifred Sanderson is her all-time favorite role. She loved the over-the-top energy of the character, the outrageous costumes, and the chance to ham it up on screen without holding back. Midler has said that she felt free to just let loose, creating a mix of menace and comedy that fans still adore. Even decades later, she happily slips back into Winifred's buck teeth and raspy voice whenever asked, proving the role has truly stuck with her. 3. The black flame candle was a real prop. The spooky black flame candle that sets off the entire chain of events in the film wasn't just a digital trick. The prop team designed a practical candle with a hidden black light to give off that eerie glow, making it look like something genuinely magical. Although the flame itself wasn't literally black, the lighting effect was convincing enough that audiences never questioned it. It's a great reminder that Hocus Pocus leaned heavily on creative, practical effects, giving the movie a tactile, grounded quality even when the story leaned into fantasy. 4. Sarah Jessica Parker has witch trial roots. Here's a creepy coincidence you can't make up. Years after the movie, Sarah Jessica Parker discovered through genealogy research that one of her ancestors was actually accused of witchcraft during the Salem witch trials. Her distant relative, Esther Elwell, was arrested in the late 1600s for sundry acts of witchcraft and only escaped execution thanks to the trials eventually collapsing. Parker admitted the revelation gave her chills, especially since she played a Salem witch on screen years earlier. Fans often point out that it's almost as though Parker was destined to be part of Hocus Pocus. 5. Filmed in Salem for authenticity. Unlike many Disney productions that were mostly shot on controlled sound stages, Hocus Pocus filmed several important scenes right on location in Salem, Massachusetts. The city's historic streets, colonial-style houses, and even its cemetery gave the film an authentic Halloween atmosphere that you just can't fake on a backlot. Locals who were around during filming still recall the buzz it created, and some of the homes used in the movie have since become tourist stops for fans. For many people, visiting those filming locations has practically become a seasonal tradition when October rolls around. 6. Thora Birch was only 10 years old. When Thora Birch played Dani, Max's little sister, she was just 10 years old, making her one of the youngest actors on set. Despite her age, Birch impressed the cast and crew with her professionalism and confidence in front of the camera. She had to hold her own against veteran performers like Bette Midler and Sarah Jessica Parker, and she managed to steal scenes with her wit and charm. Her performance gave the film a much-needed dose of innocence, balancing out the witch's campy antics and Max's teenage awkwardness. 7. The witch's costumes were incredibly detailed. The Sanderson sisters' costumes weren't just flashy Halloween outfits. They were carefully crafted by costume designer Mary Vogt with layers of historical and mystical inspiration. Winifred's green and purple gown was designed to highlight her status as the leader, while Sarah's flowing lavender dress played up her playful personality. Mary's costume was more practical, reflecting her no-nonsense, earthy vibe. Even though the film was marketed as a family comedy, the costumes were built with cinematic craftsmanship that made the witches feel larger than life and unforgettable. 8. The cat was played by real animals and animatronics. Everyone remembers Binks, the talking black cat cursed by the Sanderson sisters. To bring him to life, filmmakers used a mix of real cats, puppetry, and early CGI. For close-ups and action scenes, an animatronic cat head was used to create the expressive facial movements needed for dialogue. In wide shots, real trained cats did most of the work, while CGI filled in the gaps. For 1993, it was an impressive combination of techniques, blending old-school movie magic with emerging digital tools. 9. Doug Jones stole the show as Billy Butcherson. Actor Doug Jones, now famous for his many creature roles in films like Pan's Labyrinth and The Shape of Water, got his big break playing the zombie Billy Butcherson. Covered in elaborate makeup and prosthetics, Jones used his background as a mime and contortionist to bring Billy to life with awkward yet oddly endearing movements. In one memorable scene, when Billy finally cuts open his stitched mouth, Jones improvised the delivery of his angry rant, adding a comedic punch. It's no wonder Billy became one of the most beloved characters in the film. 10. The film was originally much darker. Believe it or not, Hocus Pocus started out as a much scarier project than the campy comedy we know today. The original script leaned heavily into the horror elements, with the Sanderson sisters written as genuinely terrifying villains who posed a serious threat to the children of Salem. Disney eventually lightened the tone to make it more family-friendly, adding humor, musical numbers, and slapstick moments. The end result may not have been what the writers first imagined, but that balance of spooky and silly is exactly what turned Hocus Pocus into a Halloween staple. 11. The Sanderson sisters' flying scenes were exhausting. The iconic flying sequences, with the witches zooming across Salem on broomsticks, vacuum cleaners, and mops, were a lot less magical behind the scenes. The actresses were strapped into elaborate harness rigs that lifted them high into the air, often for hours at a time. Bette Midler joked later that she felt like she had permanent bruises from hanging in the harnesses so long. Sarah Jessica Parker, on the other hand, said she enjoyed it so much that she'd bring a book and read while suspended between takes. It was tough work, but the results gave the movie some of its most unforgettable visuals. 12. The script sat on a shelf for years. The idea for Hocus Pocus actually originated in the mid-1980s, long before Disney greenlit production. The story was first drafted by writer Mick Garris, who pitched it as a darker children's horror film. For nearly a decade, the project bounced around Hollywood, waiting for the right moment and the right cast to come together. By the early 1990s, Disney decided to push forward, reshaping it into the lighter, family-friendly comedy we know today. The long journey from pitch to screen shows just how tricky it can be to balance horror and comedy for all ages. 13. The Sanderson house was a specially built set. While many of the film's exteriors were shot on location in Salem, the eerie Sanderson sisters' cottage was built as a detailed set on a soundstage. The design included crooked wooden beams, bubbling cauldrons, and shelves crammed with bizarre props to give it a lived-in, witchy feel. The attention to detail made the house almost a character of its own, and some of the props have even resurfaced at Disney theme park exhibits. Fans still debate whether the Sanderson house is one of the most memorable movie homes of the 1990s, right up there with the Addams Family Mansion. 14. A lot of dialogue was improvised. Although the script was tightly written, several of the funniest moments in Hocus Pocus came from improvisation. Kathy Najimy, for example, often added quirky touches to Mary's lines, like her habit of sniffing out children. Doug Jones improvised parts of Billy Butcherson's rant once his mouth was freed, giving it extra comedic punch. Even Bette Midler couldn't resist hamming it up with ad-libbed lines, keeping the energy fresh on set. This playful freedom helped the witches feel more alive, turning them into larger-than-life personalities that still make audiences laugh. 15. The film was released in July, not October. One of the strangest decisions Disney made was to release Hocus Pocus in July of 1993, smack in the middle of summer rather than during Halloween season. Executives believed the film would do better as a light-hearted summer release, but the gamble didn't pay off. Box office numbers were underwhelming, and many critics were puzzled by the timing. Ironically, had it been released in October, it likely would have been a bigger hit right away. Instead, it slowly found its audience on TV reruns every fall, eventually becoming the October tradition Disney originally overlooked. 16. The "I Put a Spell on You" scene was almost cut. One of the most iconic moments in Hocus Pocus is when Winifred Sanderson belts out "I Put a Spell on You" at the Halloween party. But believe it or not, that entire scene was almost left on the cutting room floor. Some executives worried that the musical number slowed down the story, but Bette Midler's powerhouse performance convinced them to keep it. Today, it's arguably the most memorable sequence in the whole film, with Midler's theatrical energy turning a simple party into a full-blown showstopper that fans sing along with every Halloween. 17. Sean Murray didn't voice Binks. Although Sean Murray, later famous for NCIS, played the human version of Thackeray Binks, his voice in the movie wasn't actually his own. Filmmakers decided Murray's natural voice didn't have the timeless quality they wanted, so they dubbed in actor Jason Marsden for all of Binks's lines. That's why the talking cat and the boy in the prologue sound the same. It's a detail many fans never noticed, but once you know, it adds an extra layer of behind-the-scenes trickery to the film's magic. 18. A young Elijah Wood auditioned. Before Omri Katz won the role of Max, several young actors were considered, including Elijah Wood. Though he didn't land the part, his audition impressed casting directors and helped put him on the map for future roles. Just a few years later, Wood starred in major projects like The Good Son and eventually became Frodo Baggins in The Lord of the Rings. It's fascinating to imagine how Hocus Pocus might have looked with Elijah facing off against the Sanderson sisters instead of Katz. 19. Critics didn't like it at first. When Hocus Pocus premiered in 1993, critics weren't exactly charmed. Many reviews called it too silly, uneven, or over the top, and box office returns reflected the lukewarm reception. Yet over the years, those same qualities, its campy tone, cheesy humor, and theatrical performances, became the very things fans loved most. Thanks to annual airings on the Disney Channel and Freeform, the movie transformed from a flop into a Halloween essential, proving that sometimes critics get it wrong. 20. A sequel took nearly 30 years. For decades, fans begged Disney for a sequel, but nothing came together. Rumors floated around every few years with the original cast expressing interest, but the studio holding back. Finally, almost 30 years later, Hocus Pocus 2 premiered on Disney Plus in 2022, reuniting Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker, and Kathy Najimy as the Sanderson sisters. While the sequel divided some fans, it proved the enduring popularity of the original, showing that the magic of Hocus Pocus had truly stood the test of time. And there you have it, 20 things you never knew about Hocus Pocus. What's funny is that a movie Disney originally released in the middle of summer to lukewarm reviews has gone on to become one of the most beloved Halloween traditions of all time. From Leonardo DiCaprio turning down the lead to Bette Midler calling it her favorite role, the film is overflowing with the kind of behind-the-scenes magic that makes revisiting it every October so rewarding. It just goes to show that sometimes movies don't need to be instant hits to become classics. Thanks to TV airings, nostalgic fans, and a whole lot of campy fun, Hocus Pocus transformed into the seasonal must-watch we all know today. And with the Sanderson sisters officially revived in a sequel, their legacy looks set to fly on broomsticks for years to come. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you never miss more movie secrets here on Fade to Fact. Until next time, happy Halloween, and remember, whatever you do, don't light the black flame candle.